Van Helsing versus Werewolf, issue number 2. So this is a independent by Zenescope Entertainment, and I'm actually kind of liking this. It follows not Abraham Van Helsing, but actually his daughter, Leslie Van Helsing, and I believe this is like a series because there was a Van Helsing versus the Mummy, and I believe there was a Van Helsing versus Dracula. I don't know, but yeah, and this one is Van Helsing versus Werewolf, and it's written by Chuck Dixon, who has worked on Batman, Punisher, and Bane Conquest, and I actually kind of enjoy this series. It's very, if anyone who's familiar with damn, what's the name of that film franchise? Oh my god, I can't believe it's. I'm like drawing a blank with Kate Beckinsale. Underworld. Anyone who's familiar with Underworld, that's kind of what Leslie Van Helsing reminds me of. She's basic, except she's human. But she's basically Underworld meets the Van Helsing with oh my god, Hugh Jackman. Yeah, so it's basically like Underworld meets Van Helsing meets Tomb Raider, if you can believe it or not. Like, the characterization of Leslie Van Helsing reminds me a lot of Laura Croft's, especially the comic books. Like, that whole, like, she's like an adventurer. She goes into like ancient ruins and ancient cities. Only instead of stealing treasure, it's to fight, creatures. Actually, in this series, she's actually trying to find she's actually trying to find a relic. It's the Sword of Heaven, which is supposed to be like the ultimate demon killing weapon. Oh, here we go. So in the very beginning, it tells us, okay, so she has taken on Dracula, she's taking on Frankenstein, and she's taking on the Mummy. So now she's taking on the Werewolf. I got to see if I can track down those other issues because, like I said, I really like the series so far. I mean, it's only 2 issues in, so it could get a lot worse, but so far I'm enjoying it. So in the last issue, basically, Leslie is looking for the Sword of Heaven. It takes her to China, where she basically sneaks into this heavily guarded, not an outpost. I'm just going to call it an outpost, but that's not what it is. It's basically like this old village, ancient village, but it's heavily guarded by the military. And she sneaks in to gather information on the whereabouts of the Sword of Heaven. And then she goes to hop on a private jet. And as she's flying on the private jet, she gets attacked by creatures, and the plane crashes in the mountains of Nepal. And that's where this starts off, where we see like these monks carrying the unconscious body of Leslie back to their temple. And like she wakes up like days later. And here's another thing I like. So Leslie Van Helsing is obviously, she's sexy. She's very womanly. She has the curves. She has enormous breasts. Very sexy character, but she's not overly sexualized in the term in a fan servicey way. Like, there's no like gratuitous ass shots. There's no like zoom ins on her breasts. She's sexy. She's drawn sexy. It's obvious that she's sexy, but it's not like in your face 1990s fan service kind of sexy. So I like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I will admit that I actually do like fan service every once in a while, especially if it's from a series that knows it's being fan service and like uses that to have fun. For example, there's a video game series called Senran Kagura, which is very. I mean, the whole selling point of that series is fan service, but it does it in such a hilarious, over the top manner that you can't help but love it. So like I can totally jump on board stuff like that. But yeah, I'm starting to ramble. But basically, she's a sexy character, but it's not like in your face fan servicey about it. It's not like something where like you're reading it in public and you're like constantly looking over your shoulder to make sure no one's like looking at you while you're reading it, because like if they see like a certain page, you're just gonna be like so embarrassed. Like, I'm sure everyone has seen that where like you're watching a TV show or a cartoon or playing a video game and people come in at just the wrong moment. It's like, I swear that's not what this is. It's just you came at a very bad time. Nothing like that. Like, you can read this in public, be completely okay. I don't know why the fuck I got off on that topic, but I did. Okay, so yeah, back to the subject matter at hand. Leslie wakes up and she's surrounded by monks, Buddhist monks, and they basically give her clothes and they ask her about her looking for the sword of heaven, and she's like, "How the hell do you guys know?" And then they're like, "Well, while you were unconscious, we looked through your smartphone. Sorry about that." And the monks are kind of like, I apologize. Our order values knowledge. And she's like, "Oh, like knows in the books all the time," and he's like, "Something like that." And I thought this was hilarious. Like, we get cut to a scene where like we see a bunch of monks on typing away on the computer. And it's like you never really associate monks with technology. I just thought this was like a nice little clever visual gag where like it's like, oh, like monks are like they want to like keep up on knowledge, so like they're gonna have like a bunch of like ancient tomes and stuff like that. Nope, they're actually on the internet. Hopefully they're not looking up like 4chan and stuff like that. Speaking of, not speaking of 4chan, but speaking of funny things monks do. Um, Anyone who doesn't know, I went to the Academy of Arts in San Francisco, and one of my classes, for anyone who doesn't know, the Academy of Arts doesn't have like a single building. It's multiple buildings spread out through the city of San Francisco, and you basically take a shuttle bus through the different buildings. And one of the buildings is actually a old church that it was going to get torn down, but the Academy of Arts bought it, and now they turned it into like a classroom. It's actually kind of cool. I had multiple classes in that church, and right next to the church was, I think it was like a banquet or something. Basically, one day I was exiting class and I was on my way back to the BART station, which is a transit. I was on my way to transit to go back home when I noticed like a bunch of news reporters and a bunch of Buddhist monks gathered outside on the building right next to the church. And I was like, what the hell's going on? And what happened was the Dalai Lama was actually visiting San Francisco for some reason. I actually got to meet him. I got to shake his hand and everything. I thought that was kind of cool. But here's where I'm going with the story. So, I saw the Dalai Lama, shook his hand, and then I kind of went on my way because he was kind of busy. He was just like shaking hands with people that were nearby as he was like heading into like a limo. And I just happened to be right next to him. And I was actually going to walk right by him because I was like, I don't really, I didn't really know who this was. But he like stuck his hand out. I was like, oh, he's a Buddhist monk. Buddhist monks are usually nice. If one of them offers me a handshake, I'm not gonna turn it down. So I shook his hand, went on my way, and then I later found out that it was the Dalai Lama that I shook his hands. I saw it on the local news. But anyways, as I was on my way, I saw a Buddhist monk, dressed in the garbs, bald head and everything, riding on a motorcycle, without the helmet and all that. And the funny thing is, like, I looked and I was like, is that monk riding a motorcycle? Yeah, he is. Why is there a monk riding a motorcycle? And then all of a sudden the monk popped a wheelie and then he like sped off while doing a wheelie. And, and I was just like, did I just see that? Did I just see a Buddhist monk pop a wheelie on a motorcycle? What the fuck? Like that's something that was like, it was burned in my memory and I'm never gonna forget that moment. I don't know why. I just thought this little panel right here just reminded me of that. I guess it's just like monks doing something that you wouldn't expect them doing. Like you wouldn't expect monks to be like surfing the internet. You also wouldn't be expecting monks to be doing popping wheelies on a motorcycle, but they did. So maybe they are like, maybe they do have like a supercomputer like in their temples. Like we never know. But yeah, just a little story I just wanted to share. So basically, back to the issue at hand. They take Leslie to this vampire that they have chained up, and they're trying to get information out of him. And the vampire refuses to speak with them. So they say, maybe you can, get some information out of this vampire. So Leslie basically tortures him and beats the shit out of him until he confesses that the vampires were driven out from their home by werewolves. And Leslie's like, werewolves in the Himalayas? That's they're lying. But she will like investigate anyway, so she's gonna be taken to the nearest town, and they're gonna basically one of the monks is going to be her tour guide and take her to the nearest village, and then we see they give her outfit, and she like dresses up in her gear, and it's pretty cool. It reminds me a lot of it's like a sexy version of basically Van Helsing, the movie, which I heard that they were gonna do like an actual remake with Tom Cruise. I wonder if that's still a thing. I don't know if they're still gonna be doing that after the Mummy like completely bombed, but they might. I'd be interested to see. I mean, I'm willing to give. I know they wanted to turn that whole like Universal horror monsters into a franchise, kind of like Marvel is doing and DC is doing. And I know like the Mummy like completely bombed. I don't know if it bombed commercially, but I know it bombed critically. It might have bombed commercially as well. But I'm willing to give it a try just because I love those old classic Universal monsters. So I would want to see. I want to see them come back. So hopefully, like maybe hopefully the Mummy was basically just a hiccup in a long series of great movies. Fingers crossed. But I'm starting to get off tangent again. But yeah, so she's in her gear, and this monk guides her to the nearest village. And they arrive at this village, and it's completely deserted. And well, it's deserted in the fact that there's no one on the streets, but they might be in their houses. At least that's what the monk says, that they could be hiding in their houses. But we never see anybody in this village throughout the rest of this issue. And as they arrive, they come across this other lady. Named Agent Wu. And Wu basically is on to the fact that Leslie is hunting for the Sword of Heaven. Wu is a Chinese agent, and she was the one that was basically supposed to be in charge of the secrets of the Sword of Heaven. And she knows about Leslie and how she knows that she fights demons and all that stuff. But she doesn't want Leslie to find the Sword of Heaven, because if the Sword of Heaven falls into the wrong hands, basically disaster. So Agent Wu wants to keep the Sword of Heaven hidden. She doesn't want anyone, including Leslie, to find it. But so she's able to track down Leslie, and Wu actually has magical abilities, which is kind of interesting. So anyways, we get this battle between the two. And it's pretty cool. It's a nice back and forth battle. Decent artwork, decent panels. I'm also just happy with the fact that, hey, we get a comic book with actual action going on and not just a bunch of dialogue. But yeah, I thought this scene was kind of funny. So basically, they're in the middle of fighting, and then the Buddhist monk tour guide, I'm just going to call him the boy, because that's what a lot of other characters refer to him as, that boy. So anyways, the boy goes to help Leslie when Agent Wu like kicks him and knocks him off. Basically, they're fighting on a roof. So the agent kicks the boy and knocks him off the roof. And Leslie's like, if you harm that boy, and then off screen, the boy's like, I am fine, missus. And I thought that was just kind of funny. So then Leslie and Wu like continue fighting. And then it cuts to the boy, and he's surrounded by vampires. And he's like, I am no longer fine, missus. And I was like, okay, now that got a chuckle out of me. Even, reading back, even like reading over it again right now, I'm still getting like a little laugh out of that. I thought that was a good little humor scene. So Leslie and Wu decide to put their differences aside to take on the vampires. So they massacre the vampires, but more vampires start coming. So they decide, okay, you know what? Let's just get the hell out of here. So they jump on top of the roofs and just basically start roof hopping as they try to get out of the village while being chased by vampires. It's actually a pretty cool scene. So they cross a bridge, and Wu throws a grenade and blows up the bridge so the vampires can't cross. So all three of them are safe, and the boy's like, are we friends right now? And Leslie's like, for now. And Wu's like, what brings you here? And the boy's like, we hunt a werewolf. And even Agent Wu's like, bullshit. Leslie's like, yep, that's what I was saying. But we'll work together to exterminate this vampire clan. And then we cut to a cave where we see the vampires. It's a cave where the vampires hang out. And the vampires basically tell their master, like, a lot of our people were slaughtered. And he's like, you mean by the wolf? He's like, no, by women. He's like, how many? 2. And a young boy. The vampire master's like, we must not allow them to reach the monastery. I want you to kill them. And then all the vampires are basically like, they growl, and then that's how it ends. So yeah, this is a fun little series. Like I said, it's only 2 issues in, but so far I'm enjoying it. I want to see if I can track down the other issues. I like stuff like this. It's like a subgenre, but I'm always a huge fan of like demon hunting stories, whether it's historical futuristic or present day, I'm always a huge fan of like stuff where like main character like hunts demons. I don't know why. It's just something. It's one of those like that genre is one of my favorites of all times, and I always read anything that has to deal with monsters and monster hunters and stuff like that. So like Supernatural, Van Helsing, uh, Vampire Hunter D, Helsing the anime, like anything that deals with hunting down demons, I'm a huge fan of. Which, so you guys watching, if you guys know any good vampire hunting, not even just vampire, just any demon hunting series, please let me know. It can be something new, it can be something no old. I'll try to track it down. If I can't find it at the local comic book store, there's always digital copies I can buy. But yeah, please, like any good demon hunting stories, monster hunting stories, where like the main character, like like I said, where the main character hunts demons or monsters. Let me know, because I'm a huge fan of that genre, and I would love to read more about that kind of stuff. So basically, like your Buffys, your Angels, your Constantine, Hellblazers, stuff like that. Let me know any good series like that. I would really appreciate it. But yeah, this was Van Helsing versus Werewolf, issue number 2. I'll give it my recommendation. I mean, it's 2 issues in. It could get worse. It could end up just like turning and pulling a 180 and becoming terrible. But so far I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It's basically like Marvel's Cable, where it's not the best writing, but it's entertaining. Cool action scenes, interesting story. Not gonna win any awards, but it's a good popcorn. If this was a movie, it would be a good popcorn flick. So yeah, I give it my recommendation. Pick it up, and yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys all next time. Later.